I was thinking about doing this video over the last number of weeks after I visited Medjugorje for the first time. Because as many people will know, and I've said it to friends, I really wasn't into that going there. I wasn't into Medjugorje at all. I'd kind of been burnt in the past with stuff that went on in the church, people being promoted, especially Father Marcial in the 1990s, being held up as an example. They even wrote a book. Father Marcial, supposedly wrote a book called The Integral Formation of the Catholic Priest, and they used to give this book to all new bishops who would come to Rome for this. They would have this kind of bishops preparation course for new bishops, and they would be giving this book out to all new bishops around the world. And I suppose you see this phenomenon, you see these flash in the pan kind of Catholic phenomenon, superstar priests and rising religious communities that are supposed to save the church, and then you see behind it that there's very little substance, and there's actually fraud, and you can get burnt and you can lose your faith. You can actually people sometimes in the church use the faith to influence people for various reasons, for money, for sex, for power, for all these things. They use the faith to influence other people, and I suppose that's kind of a scary reality, both for me and for what I experienced for this channel and so forth. I don't want to be burnt again as regards different phenomena that are happening in the Catholic world. I am bread and butter Catholic now. I prefer adoration, rosary. Age-old Catholic practices that you just can't go wrong with. I'm not the man that will go chasing apparitions, and I really don't. If somebody was telling me, "Oh, Our Lady's appearing somewhere tomorrow in some place," do you know what? I wouldn't be jumping out of bed to go there. I simply am not into that type of thing anymore, because I had to make the decision to root my faith in what I knew was real, which is the Eucharist. I know the Eucharist is real, Our Lady, and I used to love Knock. I would go there, and I never felt any need at all to go to Medjugorje. However, why was I so wrong about Medjugorje? And I suppose I want to separate two things here. I'm going to leave the seers and the messages to one side, and I'm going to focus on what is happening in Medjugorje today. Okay, and yesterday I was at lunchtime. I went to the Basilica of Guadalupe here where I am in Mexico City, and there was 12 o'clock mass, and I just sat down there and watched the mass. Went to mass there in the basilica and looked around. This is one of the largest basilicas in the world, one of the oldest Marian shrine sites in the world. Millions and millions and millions of people have gone there. In Mexico, it's on the 12th of December. Our Lady Guadalupe, she's such a massive presence in Mexico. But I was just there thinking, there was only one priest celebrating Mass. He didn't even give out communion to most of the people. He gave out to 20 or 30, and then he went up and he left the extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion give out communion. I think there was two priests offering confessions that I could see anyway. And this was a weekday. And if you were a foreign pilgrim, you probably wouldn't have been able to find confession in your language, and the Basilica of the Guadalupe is a place you visit for 2 or 3 hours. You might go to mass there. It's not. You don't have that kind of atmosphere that you have in Medjugorje, in the sense you don't have the community that you would see in the evening. And what is in Medjugorje that really is transforming people's lives is the confession. It's confession. It's the fact that you have, on any given day, it seems, over 100 priests in Medjugorje. Certainly when I was there was well over 100 priests. Now, I've been to Marian shrines all over the world. Guadalupe, I've come here for the last 28 years, nearly every year, sometimes twice a year, to Medjugorje. to Guadalupe. So I know Guadalupe very well. I've been to Fatima, Lourdes, I've been to Fatima, Lourdes, Częstochowa, many of the sites in Italy, Loreto and Pompeii, Our Lady of Pompeii, Our Lady of Europa. There's several Marian sites in Italy. I've been to most of them. I've been on the Camino several times, and I've been to Knock because I live beside Knock, and so I know these sites very much. But the conversion that is coming from Medjugorje, and this is lifelong conversion. It's not flash in the pan emotion. Oh, I went to Medjugorje, had an emotional conversion, and I've come back to Ireland and I'm still the same. No, this is lifelong, years and years and years of conversion. And one thing that I've noticed with people that do have conversions in Medjugorje, they don't go around trying to defend it very militantly. Medjugorje people, they tend to be pretty humble and say, well, look, if you don't believe in Medjugorje, that's fine, that's okay, Robert, you don't believe in it, but I do, and I've had conversion there. And I've seen these people, and I've seen their lifelong interior conversion. I mean, I can't say it any other way. Like, profound conversion, not only lay people, but also priests. Profound conversion of heart from that place. And what is happening in Medjugorje is the fact that you have so many priests confessing in so many languages. I mean, people will see it. If you've been to Medjugorje, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been to Medjugorje, you have to go and experience what is happening there on the level of conversion from confession. You have the adoration. You have the Mass there. You have the Rosary. Really, that evening program. The evening program that you have in Medjugorje, which is from 5 to 8. And then afterwards you might have some talks organised in different places on the faith. So you have a whole community that has really come together for a few days to live the faith. And you don't have that in Guadalupe. You don't have that in Knock. You don't have that in any other Marian shrine that I'm aware of. No, and I've been to, for example, Huntsville, Alabama, the Shrine of the Blessed Sacrament, the Mother Angelica, beautiful shrine. You do have confession there, but you don't have the community around it in the evening. Like, you go there, you visit, and then you leave, you might say somewhere else. Whereas in Medjugorje, you're kind of plonked, you're put all together in that town. And because you have to travel there, it's not even in the EU, it's outside the EU, like you have to travel to there. It's not a day trip that many European Catholics will have. You will go there for a couple of days. And this is where I have got it completely wrong. By focusing on the supposed messages and seers, you forget what else is the real grace that is actually happening in Medjugorje. I mean, and I can tell you, there is real grace flowing through Medjugorje. Real grace. Through the priests that are going there and ministering the sacraments. These are valid sacraments. This is real grace. This is giving lifelong conversion of heart. It's giving hope. It's giving meaning to these people's lives. I mean, I was just bowled over by Medjugorje. I didn't know what was coming over me. It was just like, okay, how will I deal with it? And then you're there trying to digest what has happened to you in this place. Because as I said, I wasn't planning to go to Medjugorje. It kind of landed in my lap, and I went there, and I really did find it transformative on many levels. And a very traditional place to go. You would be surprised. A very traditional place to go. In many reasons. Many reasons for, it wasn't, it was just a beautiful place. They weren't shoving synodality and synodal this and synodal that in Medjugorje. It simply wasn't there. There wasn't all this COVID mania that's ruining the church around Europe. Wasn't there. It's amazing. Whereas, you go to Guadalupe here, you can't even get into the basilica without a mask. And yet I don't know how Medjugorje has survived all of this year with no masks and no COVID mania and all this stuff that's happening. So I was wrong big time on Medjugorje. wrong belief. And I have read the books by Michael Jones and different people on Medjugorje, on the supposed fraud, on the messengers, and what bishops have said. And I am aware of that. And so I'm leaving all of that to one side. I'm focusing on what's happening today in that place. The priests that are going there today, the masses that are valid being offered there today, the confessions which are valid being offered there today, and the conversion that is happening there today. Can our Lord come in to a situation and renew it and give grace? Yes, he can. So even if tomorrow Medjugorje it's all a fraud, or if it's true, either way, what is happening there is today is valid, is the flow of grace to people's souls. As simply as happening. There's no other way to put it. And the more I've reflected on that, the more I've seen it. Like, I know many people that do the Camino, they get a lot of conversion out of that. It strengthens their faith. It did for me. But sadly, the Camino de Santiago has become very secular. And in the Basilica of Santiago, they actually removed the confessionals. Can you imagine? It was something like Medjugorje used to walk around a basilica and there would be confessionals, and you were priests confessing. And now they've kind of removed confession out of sight. Similar to Knock. If you were to bring people to Knock to visit on a pilgrimage, say Spanish or Italian, you don't have the possibility to go to confession in Spanish or Italian. Actually, confession is really is out of sight in Knock. You'd have to know where to go. And if you do go there, it's not the same as Medjugorje. You don't have that level of pastoral support in Knock. You simply don't. And it's you don't have the level of accommodation in Knock that you would have in Medjugorje, so that you could go there and spend a few days. I found the set being there for the week. I think we were there Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. 7 days. I was there 7 days. I found being there for 7 days, just going to the rosaries, the masses, the confession, the Via Crucis up Cross Mountain. I mean, I went up that mountain 4 times. I found it, incredibly beautiful. I just, I just loved that peace. So it's just the dynamic of Medjugorje. You simply do not encounter that in the other Marian sites that I know of anyway, or the other major pilgrimage sites that you have around it. Now, there is a traditional pilgrimage from Chartres to Notre Dame, I think. I'm nearly sure it's a 3-day pilgrimage around Pentecostes. They are doing great work in the sense you do have all of the priests there, you have the confession, and you have the mass, and that is becoming something similar. You have the real graces flowing that, but that's just one time a year. Whereas Medjugorje, you go there, you can go there. It's open, for months. The season is what. I think 6, 7 months or 8 months, and people in the winter, people are going there. It just lends itself to what's happening there. So, that's just my thought in it, and how I got that place so wrong. You have to visit it. Anyone that's coming after me criticizing Medjugorje, I used to be the same. I used to be the naysayer. I don't believe in that phenomenon. I still don't follow all the messages in Medjugorje. I don't know any of the seers. I've not met any of the seers. I do know about the early Franciscans and all the shenanigans that was going up there. And, human nature is human nature. But today, what is going on in Medjugorje is simply incredible. And that's all I can say. And you have to go there to experience it yourself. You'll just grow your faith. If you could go with other people, you're able to talk, you're able to go to confession, you can go to mass, you're talking with other people about the faith, you're hearing talks and testimonies in different places in the evening, the rosaries and all this. It makes you think a lot more about what the faith means, and that's really it. So I'm just meditating on this and what is happening. If tomorrow the phenomenon of Medjugorje proved completely false, say the seers came out and say, look, we've been misleading you for years, and it was just, we all did it all for money. I don't know. you have to think about it, because these things have happened in the past in the church. I mean, let's hope it doesn't happen. But if that doesn't take away from what is happening there. When I was there, and I wasn't reading any of the messages, wasn't following any of the seers, doing any of that. I was just doing standard Catholicism, Via Crucis, Mass, confession, rosary, fasting, if you're trying some of the fasting, a bit of asceticism, climbing up Cross Hill, barefoot 3 days. And that was really it. And it just helped me. That's, you could do that probably in any Marian site. People can say, well, Robert, you can do all of that and somewhere else. Why do you have to go to Medjugorje to do it? Where else in Europe? Where else do we have what you find in Medjugorje in Europe? I would love to know, because I've traveled around many of the places, even the Camino de Santiago, as in Medjugorje, you see so many people kneeling to receive communion on the tongue. There's great reverence for the Eucharist. In Santiago, sadly, it's become so secular in many ways. You don't have the same Catholic spirit as you do have in Medjugorje. I've been to Montserrat, for example, another great Marian shrine, or Our Lady of Pilar, or Covadonga in Spain. I've been to several pilgrimage sites in Spain, and they're very much sites you go to, you spend a few hours, you leave. And really, Medjugorje, you're kind of forced to spend a few days. You have that, you're kind of bombarded with the Catholicity, the graces, the confessions, the adoration, the rosaries. All of that is really kind of forming you. And that's really the secret of Medjugorje. The secret of Medjugorje is the confession, and it's the Eucharist, and it's the rosary. And it's the lived faith of the people that are there. That's really the secret. And can our Lord get in there and work his grace in souls? Yes, he can, and he's doing it. You'd need to be blind not to see the conversion that's coming from Medjugorje. People that critics, like I was a critic, we either accept the graces that are coming from there, or we refuse to see what's actually happening. That people's life, they're having lifelong conversion. And as I said, I'm not making any judgment on the messages or on the seers. I have no clue. I'm really not. I don't know. Do I believe Our Lady is the Queen of Peace? Yes, I do. Did she actually appear there? I leave that up to the church in the future to decide. Once the history is written on that place, we'll see. But it's a place I absolutely do recommend Catholics to go to. I absolutely do. I am a fervent believer in people going to Medjugorje, and going in groups, and bringing people that are struggling in the faith. Go there. Go to Medjugorje. There's very little in Ireland, for example. You go to Knock, you don't get that. You don't get that environment that, for example, you don't get the presence of the ministry of the priests. You don't have that ministry in Knock. It doesn't exist. You're not encouraged to go to confession. Whereas if you go to Medjugorje, you need to be blind not to see, because you have both sides of the church with confessionals. You need to be blind not to see what is happening in people's lives in confession in Medjugorje. And I know many people have had their lives transformed there. And these are priests coming from all around the world, different languages, offering confession in so many languages, so that pilgrims can avail of that. And Christ is getting in there. He's working, because these are valid confessions. These are valid priests. People are being transformed, and that's all I can say. And I've yet to meet a militant Medjugorje person. They seem to be okay. Well, look, you don't believe it, that's okay. You don't believe that's, they don't seem to be, they just get on with life. And I suppose I just wanted to, give my thoughts on it. I do recommend you go there. I think it's one of the most beautiful places I've been to in Europe. It really is. The countryside, the just the peace you get from there. So anyway, just my thoughts on it. And pray for the church. Pray for the church in these times. Pray for peace. These are not easy times, but we have to give leadership as Catholics and give hope. Give hope. There is hope in our faith. The faith means so much to me. To see Christ working in my life in ways I never expected. I'm kind of bowled over. I'm overwhelmed by grace and what he's doing, because this isn't me, this is him. And I just wanted to give, a lot of people in Medjugorje, people that for years told me to go there, are probably laughing at me now when I'm giving this talk. Oh, Robert has been converted. I'm being pragmatic about what I saw. I'm just being a pragmatic Catholic. Just seeing, meditating on what I saw without getting involved in the apparitions or the messages or anything like that. I'm just being pragmatic that it is the shrine. It is the shrine that just is able to convert people. I don't know how it just does. It just does. It's the confessional of the world. There's no other way to say it's not Guadalupe here. You don't have, on a given day, you don't have it here. It just doesn't, yesterday I was looking around the shrine, 5 priests, I would say. On a Sunday you would get a few more, but depending on the time of the year. Whereas in Medjugorje, you always have dozens of priests. Always. You have the Franciscans that are there, but you always have, when I was there, there was many Dominicans, and you can see them around us. So I do encourage people, go to Medjugorje. Anyway, God bless. Take care. Let me know your thoughts below. Be interested to know your thoughts on it, especially those who haven't been to Medjugorje. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this assessment? And as I said, I haven't gone into the seers or the messages. I'm leaving those to one side. I'm talking about what is happening there today, and it's a valid assessment to say, there is grace flowing in Medjugorje. It's happening. God bless. Take care. Bye bye.